Hi everyone. Today in my presentation, I'm going to talk about life processes. So what is life process exactly? In order for us to walk or ride a bicycle or run or do any activity, we need energy, right? Even when we are not doing anything, for a body to be maintained in a state, we do need energy. And this energy for us to do any activities comes from food. So there are processes that we need to do daily in order to stay alive. They are called life processes. So there are many systems in our body which coordinate together to carry out these processes. They are kidneys, digestive system, heart, and respiratory system. So these are different processes that needs to take place for us to carry out few activities in order to stay alive. So the source of energy for us is food. Like for the car, it's fuel. So for us, it's food. Now, what is meant by nutrition? And what is the mode of nutrition in plants? And what is the nutrition in humans? So nutrition is the food that we eat. But what about plants? They make their own food. So what are the modes of nutrition? So what is meant by modes is the ways of getting the food. So how does plants get their food, and how does this tiger sitting here gets its food, or how do we get the food? So plants can make their own food in presence of sunlight and water through a process called photosynthesis. But can we make our own food? No. We need to depend on plants or meat in order to have a food. That is the reason we are called consumers, and producers are the ones which can make their own food, are called producers. So plants are producers and animals and us are consumers. Now coming to what are autotrophs and what are heterotrophs. So plant is an autotroph. Autotroph means self-nourished. So autotroph means, auto means self, troph means nourishment. So they can self-nourish themselves, whereas consumers are heterotrophs. Hetero means others. They are depending on others to make their food. So what are the types of heterotrophs? Heterotrophs are further classified into three types: holozoic, saprophytic, and parasite. I'll be talking about them in the next slide. Now, who are holozoic? What are saprotrophs and what are parasites? So, holo means whole. That they are the consumers who can digest the whole food inside. For example, if there is an orange here, you're going to take it inside. The orange is going to be, when we eat an orange, it's going to get digested. We take in all the sugar, vitamins inside the body. The digestive system breaks down the food. So for example, we're taking an orange. It's a complex compound. It's broken down into simple sugars. And who is doing it? The digestive system is going to do that. So what happens if you don't have a digestive system? So let me repeat it again. Holozoic means whole food. So we are able to eat the food by itself, and our digestive system breaks down complex food into simpler sugars. But if digestive system does not occur in our body, then what will happen? The food needs to be digested outside. So they are called as saprotrophs. For example, leave a strawberry outside for a few days. What do you see? You can see that it's rotten. That is because of bacteria and fungi. So what's exactly happening is these bacteria and fungi spit their enzymes and acids, and then they break the strawberry. So whatever bacteria and fungi needs, it eats and it's digesting outside. So it is leaving all the digested material outside, that is its excretory product. That is the reason that you can smell when it rots. So what's happening is the whole digestion is a chemical reaction, right? So the byproducts are the reason why there is a smell. So they are decomposers. Saprotraps are decomposers. So what's happening here basically is they're digesting the food outside, right? They split the enzymes and they break it down, they absorb whatever is needed and leave behind the waste product. Now, what if you can't digest food outside or inside? Outside is saprotrophs, inside is holozoic. What if you don't digest food at all, inside or outside? Then such organisms are called parasites. Like they need to depend on a host to get their food. Like they don't really kill the host, they just damage, they cause harm to the host. For example, a parasite is, imagine that this is your hand and a parasite is stuck. So the blood in the hand is acting as a food for this parasite. So parasite really doesn't kill the host, but they're causing real harm because you don't want something sucking on your blood. So in stomach, you can see something like tapeworms, roundworms. They are also parasites. So parasites cannot digest food inside or outside, so they depend on host for their digestion. Now, how does plants make their own food? Plants absorb sunlight and the leaves convert carbon dioxide from the environment and water is absorbed from the roots. They convert this carbon dioxide and water in presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is the green color pigment present in the leaves to give glucose. And the byproduct is oxygen. So let me ask you guys a question. Do you think oxygen is necessary for photosynthesis? No, oxygen is just a byproduct. The main things required is carbon dioxide and water in presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. It gives glucose, which is food for the plants, and oxygen, which is released as byproduct. Now coming to process of nutrition in amoeba. So what happens in amoeba? So here you can see this is the food for amoeba, that is the bacterium. So whenever it sees, what happens is, suppose, imagine like this, amoeba is like this. When it sees the food, it forms false feet. That is the reason amoeba is called, it has pseudopods. Pods means foot and pseudo means false. So amoeba has false feet. So it moves around and eats it up. So it is engulfing the food material. So what happens is, amoeba, whenever it sees food, it first forms false feet and then it digests the food completely. Whatever digestive enzymes are present through diffusion, and then they break down the food into small molecules. So what's exactly happening is, once this food is inside, okay, this food is inside, it needs to be broken down into small molecules. Okay, and it needs to be distributed all over the body. So after digestion, it needs to be distributed all over the body to each and every part of it. Then whatever is not needed needs to be taken out. That is called digestion. So what happens first? Whenever it sees food, it falls false feet and it engulfs it. Once it engulfs it, once it's inside the cell, it is going to digest it. Once it digests and distributes the whatever is required all over, whatever is not required is going to get removed. Okay, so this is the process of nutrition in amoeba. Now, which system takes care of nutrition in human beings? It is the digestive system. So what happens in digestive system exactly? So where does the food that we eat really go? Like think this is an apple. Now, if you eat it, does it directly go into your stomach? No. It first needs to go through your mouth, right? So I'll go step by step in detail. So first you eat it with the help of teeth. So after that, it goes through alimentary canal, and the path of food inside our body is called alimentary canal. So this is the mouth, and this is esophagus. And here you can see stomach. And this is the pancreas. I'm also great at drawing. So just imagine a triangular shaped organ that is liver. This is pancreas. And this is small intestine. Which goes into the large intestine. Okay. So these are the main parts: mouth, esophagus, stomach, pancreas, liver, small intestine, and large intestine. So what is the purpose of the digestive system? The purpose of the digestive system is to break down food which is in its complex form into simpler form. Okay, so that it can be distributed all over to the body, to each and every cell of the body. The apple which you eat needs to be broken down into simple molecules from polymers to monomers, and then they are distributed to all over the body. It's absorbed by the blood. So the purpose of digestion is basically the complex food is converted into simpler forms. So what are associated glands? Associated glands in digestion are the glands that do not participate in the digestion, but they are a part of it. How are they part of it? They stimulate the digestion by releasing certain enzymes. Let me go over again. So there are something called, again, let me go through the important parts of digestive system: mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, liver, and pancreas. Okay. So main parts: mouth, esophagus, stomach, liver, small intestine, large intestine. So what are accessory glands? Accessory glands are liver, pancreas, gallbladders, which I'll be explaining later. But right at this point, you need to remember that these are the glands which help in digestion. They do not participate in digestion, like they help in digestion. And how do they do that? These organs, they release some enzymes that help in breaking down of food. So what's happening exactly? These glands do not participate, but they release enzymes which break down food. So in a way, they are helping in digestion. So they are called accessory glands. Now coming to small intestine. But sorry, I'll be going through each and every part. So we are clear on outline, that is mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine are parts of digestive system, and accessory glands are liver, gallbladder, and pancreas. Now, so oral cavity. So what is the role of oral cavity in digestion? So we need teeth to break down, to bite the apple, and mastication helps in breaking down it into small molecules. So what's exactly happening here is teeth is helping down to break the food mechanically. So there are 4 types of teeth: incisors, canines, premolars, and molars. So incisors, canines, premolars, and molars. Okay. So let me draw again. So there are 4 types of teeth. Incisors, canines, premolars, and molars. Okay. In adults, the dental formula is 2, 1, 2, 3. So there are 4 quadrants, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are 2 incisors, 1 canine, 2 premolars, and 3 molars, each quadrant. Whereas in children, it is 2, 1, 0, 2. There are no premolars. So there are no premolars in children. Okay. So it is 2, 1, 2, 3, and 2, 1, 0, 2. 2 incisors, 1 canine, 2 premolars, and 3 molars on one side. And 2 incisors, 1 canines, no premolars, and 2 molars in each quadrant. So there are something called salivary glands. So what is the purpose of these salivary glands? Like you can see them here. So what is the purpose of salivary glands? So we know what is saliva, right? It is, so when you see food, you can, immediately there is a sensation and you can feel saliva in your mouth. So that is happening because of salivary glands. Whenever we see food, it releases something called saliva. So salivary glands produces saliva, which has an enzyme called salivary amylase. Or ptyalin. It's also called as ptyalin. So what is an enzyme? I keep repeating the word enzyme, right? It is a biocatalyst. Like enzyme speeds up the reaction, but enzyme can also be a protein most of the cases. So what is the purpose of the salivary amylase? So the purpose of it is it converts starch into simple sugars. Okay, so let me repeat myself again. So salivary glands can be seen here, near your mouth. So what is the purpose of this salivary glands? Salivary glands produces something called as saliva, which contains an enzyme. It is called as salivary amylase or ptyalin. And this enzyme speeds up the reaction. And what does salivary amylase in particular do? It converts starch into simple sugars. So that is the purpose of salivary amylase. It converts starch into simple sugars. So it's converting starch into simple sugars. So that is its function. Now, what are the functions of saliva? There can be a question asked. So the function is converting complex starch into simple sugars. There are 2 functions of saliva. One is converting complex starch into simple sugars. Another thing is it moistens the food. Okay, so whenever you're chewing an apple, you can imagine it will help in like moistening the food so that it can pass easily through esophagus. Now, we have studied about teeth, we have studied about salivary glands. Now, let's come to esophagus. Esophagus, no digestion occurs here. There is no digestion happening over here, but peristalsis occurs here. So what is peristalsis exactly? So peristalsis So now the food has reached esophagus. Okay, we have eaten an apple. It's broken down, and with the help of saliva, the food is moistened, broken down, and then passed through esophagus. So at esophagus, there is something called peristalsis. So what is peristalsis? It is a rhythmic series of wave-like contractions. So wave-like muscular contractions and relaxation of muscles. So, you know, it's continuously contracting, relaxing, contracting, relaxing, contracting, relaxing. What happens when such process occurs is the food easily goes down. That is the purpose of esophagus. Okay, so now the food moves to down. It reaches stomach. Okay, now we are here. Now what happens in the stomach? In stomach, there are some glands on the walls of the stomach. Okay, this is called as, I'll just use another color. So there are some glands on the stomach wall. They are called as gastric glands. So what is the purpose of the gastric glands? So gastric glands produce enzymes. They release, what does these gastric glands do is, they release three things. Okay, one is HCl. That's why we always must have come across the term that stomach is acidic. That's because it has HCl and it gives pepsin and mucus. Okay, so these gastric glands are there in the walls of the stomach, and they produce enzymes, and they give HCl, pepsin, and mucus. So HCl is hydrochloric acid, right? So why do you think we need something acidic in our stomach? So what does this HCl exactly do is, it converts pepsinogen into pepsin. Now, why do we need pepsin? Pepsinogen is inactive form and pepsin is in its active form. But anyways, my question is, why do we still need pepsin? So, suppose we are eating proteins, okay? If this protein needs to be broken down into peptones, that is a simpler thing, it can occur only in presence of pepsin. So that is the reason why we need pepsin. So let me explain again. So this is the stomach, right? Stomach, there are gastric glands on the walls. They secrete HCl, pepsin, and mucus. Now, HCl gives an acidic medium. And why do we really need HCl? The function of HCl is it converts pepsinogen into pepsin. Pepsinogen is in its inactive form and pepsin is in its active form. Anyways, but still, why do we need pepsin? So we need pepsin because when we consume proteins, for the proteins to be broken down into simpler thing that is called peptones, we need this pepsin. So that's why we need HCl, because HCl converts pepsinogen into pepsin, and this pepsin is necessary for breaking down protein into peptones. Now, why do we need mucus? We need mucus because it protects the walls of the stomach from action of HCl. So mucus is there all over because here this is HCl, you think. So mucus is protecting the wall of the stomach from the action of hydrochloric acid. So now let's come to small intestine. So this is the small intestine. So there are three parts: duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. Before going there, let me just draw pancreas is something here, a leaf-like thing, and liver is here. Okay. sorry, I've not drawn clearly, but you can imagine that liver is here and pancreas is here. So there are three parts in small intestine. It's duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. Okay. So the liver and pancreas, they release their secretion into duodenum, the starting point. So now let's just quickly review whatever we have studied. So first we ate an apple, which we were able to chew it with the help of our teeth, and the salivary glands secreted saliva. So a mucus is formed, a bolus is formed that goes through your esophagus with the help of peristalsis. Then what is happening? It reaches your stomach. In stomach, there are three things. That is, because of gastric glands, there is HCl, pepsin, and mucus. So now it has from stomach, it's reaching small intestine. So, and that small intestine, what's happening? The liver and the pancreas are releasing their secretions inside. The process of digestion is completed in small intestine. So you can say that the process of digestion is complete. Okay, so now, so this is the liver, this is the pancreas, and this is the gallbladder. So I have spoken about this earlier, saying that these are accessory glands, that is, they release their enzymes, so they are helping in digestion without taking a part in it. Okay, so now let us study about each. So what is the function of liver? So liver produces something called bile juice. Okay, so we have studied how sugars are broken down. We have studied about how proteins are broken down into peptones with the help of pepsin. Now, how do we break down fats? So fats are broken down with the help of this bile juice. That is called emulsification. So what is emulsification? So emulsification means breaking down of big fat molecules into small globules. Okay, so who is helping? Liver is helping. So liver produces bile juice and it helps in emulsification of fat, that is breaking down of big fat molecules into small globules. Also, liver helps in neutralizing HCl in the stomach. So this is acid, right? So what do you mean by neutralizing? So you need something basic thing to neutralize an acid. So that function is done by liver. So whenever food comes from stomach, it is acidic. In order to neutralize it, this bile juice comes into picture. Now, what is the function of gallbladder? So gallbladder stores and concentrates bile. Okay, so it has bile, and who is producing bile juice? Liver is producing, but who is storing it? Gallbladder is doing that. So now, what is pancreas doing? So pancreas give pancreatic juice. Okay. So now what does this pancreatic juice do? It has enzymes to digest not only proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Okay, so what is pancreas doing here? So it's giving pancreatic juice. Okay, so now what is this pancreatic juice doing? It helps enzymes to digest proteins, carbohydrates, and fat. This pancreatic juice has something called trypsin and lipase. Okay, trypsin, it helps in protein digestion. And what does lipase do? It helps in fat digestion. And it also has amylase, which digests carbohydrates. So pancreas is actually helping down digest carbohydrates, proteins, and fat. And how does it do? In presence of pancreatic juice, it releases enzymes called trypsin, lipase, and amylase. Trypsin digests proteins, lipase digests fat, and amylase digests carbohydrates. Okay. Now, this is the small intestine, right? Now we have studied what are the functions of liver, gallbladder, and pancreas. What does liver do? It secretes bile juice, which helps in emulsification of fat, and gallbladder stores and concentrates the bile. And pancreatic juice actually digests proteins, carbohydrates, as well as fats. And protein digestion happens because of trypsin. Fat digestion is happening because of lipase, and because of amylase, the carbohydrate is digested. Now coming to small intestine, on the walls of small intestine, there is something called small intestinal juice also. So now, what is the end products of digestion? So once we are saying that the process of digestion ends in small intestine, right? So what are the end products right here? So we have got from carbohydrates, we get glucose. And when proteins are digested, we get amino acids. And when fats are digested, we get fatty acids and glycerol. Okay. So let me repeat it again. When we digest carbohydrate, glucose is the end product. For proteins, it's amino acids. And for fats, it's fatty acids and glycerol. Now, these are absorbed and distributed all over the body. So they're absorbed by the blood now. Okay. So if these are the blood capillaries, so it will be able to absorb. It doesn't absorb in the form of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. It gets absorbed in the form of glucose, amino acids, fatty acids, and glycerols. Now they can travel to any part of the body. Now, coming to, this is the small intestine. You can see something like finger-like projections. They are called as villi. So what does this, so in the picture you might have seen, I have drawn that small intestine looks like this, entering into the large intestine, right? So I'm just drawing again and again so that it's clear. So this is the large intestine, this is the small intestine. So inside the small intestine, you will see finger-like projections. Okay, those are called as villi. So what does these villi do? They are the finger-like projections that increase the surface area. Now, why do we need to increase the surface area? It's because it helps in more absorption of food. So it helps in easy absorption of food. Okay, so that is the function of villi. So now, whatever food is required is absorbed here in the small intestine. And how is it happening? With the help of villi. They are increasing the surface area so that the food can be easily absorbed. Now the food enters large intestine, and large intestine is where undigested food passes. Okay, so small intestine, what's happening? It has villi, like we studied, and how much ever it can absorb, food is absorbed. And now whatever is not needed, it enters large intestine. So excess, so whatever water is there, it gets reabsorbed, excess water. Now the waste product, that is the fecal matter, it passes through the large intestine and then eliminated through the anus. So this process of removal of undigested food, so the removal of undigested food is called as egestion. Okay, solid food. It is called egestion. It is not called excretion. It is called egestion, removal of solid undigested food. So I hope you guys have understood all the parts of the digestive system. We can have a review of everything quickly. So what's happening once the food is there inside the mouth? In the presence of salivary glands, saliva is released, salivary enzymes are released in the form of the bolus. It travels through esophagus, enters the stomach, and in the stomach we have gastric glands which give HCl, pepsin, and mucus. And the liver here, and the gallbladder, and the pancreas, what do they do? So liver secretes bile juice, and which helps in emulsification of the fat. Gallbladder stores the bile. Pancreas secrete pancreatic juice, which helps in digestion of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And then from there it goes to small intestine. Okay. From small intestine, so what is happening in small intestine? It has villi, so which helps in maximum absorption of food. Water also is absorbed. When it enters the large intestine, so it is mostly in the large intestine, the undigested food goes out through egestion, through anus. So the process of digestion ends in small intestine itself. Large intestine is helping us to remove the undigested food. I hope you guys have understood what are the basics of digestive system. If you have any questions, please comment and let me know. I will be answering them, and please like, share and subscribe. And if you guys are interested in any topic, please let me know. I can make a video on that, and please click on the subscription. Thank you.